you pay for dreams and goals with two types of currency. It's not monetary. The two types of currency are sacrifice and regret. Hey everybody, welcome to the Jeremy Redman and TaskMagic. I'll throw TaskMagic in there. But where I show you how to save time and make money with automations. Me and the team, me and everyone else, right? It's just behind my charisma. Because Kyle's so boring. So boring. Kyle is the most boring ever. I might cut both ways. But Kyle bores me. I'm getting off track, but leave this in, Dave. I did an interview a little back with Scott Dudley from SaaS Startup Stories, and it's about how you can use automation to, one, make money, right? And two, save time and build your company. Because every single company starts with manual processes. Every single startup. And we're gonna start uncovering more and more of these stories. Microphone's in the way. Every single one of these stories, not every single one, but a lot of them. This is a little bit of my story, so you can check that out. There's a lot of tips in there about how normal people who don't have access to, say, our software hire virtual assistants. And if a virtual assistant, I will hold to this, if a virtual assistant can do the job, TaskMagic can do it. So if you're hiring someone for $7, $8, $9, $10 an hour virtually, don't manage them, don't do anything like that. Ease off of them or give them TaskMagic to work with and triple, quadruple their output. So I go into a lot of the stuff we did to convert from manual processes over to automations and why I built TaskMagic. So there's a lot of good stuff in there and a lot of good tips. And before we roll to that, make sure you like this video and subscribe if you like to figure out tips with me on how to make money and save time. Saving time is so important. This is a time machine. This is a time machine. So, if you like those tips and you want more of it, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and say hello in the comments. Let me know what you want to see. We'll come out with more of these over time. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this.
Hi, this is Scott from SaaS Startup Stories, and today's show is sponsored by ActiveCampaign, the world's #1 email marketing and automation platform and the system that I use to run my entire business. If you'd like to get started with ActiveCampaign and take advantage of the best current promo they're running, then go over to scottdudley.com/AC and fill out the form. And then today, my special guest is Jeremy Redman. Jeremy's based in California and is the founder and CEO at TaskMagic, which is a platform that helps entrepreneurs record manual, repetitive tasks once and never do it again. Jeremy, you ready to rock and roll?
Call me John Bon Jovi. That's how we're ready to rock.
He's getting a bit old, man.
Isn't he? Yeah, he really is too. I don't know why that's who I went to. You know, like, I don't know. I didn't go to like any other like rock star. I think his name is just fun to say.
It is. Yeah.
So yeah, John Bon, you know, or just John Jovi, you know, something like that.
All right, let's start off with your background and what initially got you interested in starting a SaaS company.
Yeah. So for me, like, I grew up with nothing. So like in the trailer park. And I think I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. But for me, you always kind of felt that disconnection or that disassociation with technology. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And a lot of that came out of necessity. So for me, it was very much like when I was 10, I started a sales company, right? So not SaaS, but sales, so just selling products. And for me, it was like every item that I sold $3, or I got $3. And it was called Olympia Sales Club at the time. And when that got too much for me to handle, I had my stepbrother sell, and he made $1 and I took $2. And then when it got too much for both of us, there was a neighbor kid that we had. And then I would like kind of grow it. And I was like learning to scale a sales org at 11 intuitively is pretty incredible when you think back on it.
Yeah.
And I was the first person in my entire family to go to college, let alone graduate. And somewhere along the lines, like I always, again, knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but didn't know about the idea. And I worked for my first venture-backed SaaS company shortly after college, like a couple of years after college, based in Los Angeles. And they had raised a little money. That was my first foray into SaaS. And then after I left that company, 5 months in, because they kind of went out of business, welcome to Startup Land, I decided to start my own company. I finally had this idea for like a digital business card exchange. I called that Air 5 at the time. That ended up being my first 6-figure no-code SaaS company. And then pivoted that 14 different times and was able to monetize that at least 5 figures at a stage. So it ended up being at least mid 6 figures for that venture, all like monthly fees. It was anything from like an event SaaS platform to an alumni connection platform to a drink subscription. Yep. So it was kind of like everything in between. After that, I ended up pivoting into what I have now, which is TaskMagic, where we automate things. And this is now my first 7-figure SaaS company, fourth 6-figure company overall.
Excellent. Exciting stuff. All right. So with TaskMagic, was that bootstrapped or did you get VC funding? Tell us how you got the business off the ground.
Yeah. So I think everything started as everything starts like bootstrapped, right? Like, or on your own personal credit card. So yeah. For me, I was at least $10,000 in debt with every venture that I started, I feel like. And then you're always kind of like, as a SaaS founder, you're always thinking in the back of your head, how do I get venture funding? Right? So like everything is kind of like, what's that in between? There is an in between term where it's like bootstrapped, but also venture backed. It's like it's not boot backed. I forget what it's called now. But there's there's like an in-betweeny term. Yeah. And I've always liked that island of that in between, like raising venture capital, like when you can, but like using it to grow, not too much, more on your own terms, having the leverage because you actually run a good business. Yeah. Right? Like it's a good fundamental company. And I've always practiced what I've preached in that regard. So obviously, like once you've bootstrapped and you've put things out into the ether and you've built a product, it's easy then to attract investors when you're doing well, and you have bootstrapped up to that point. So we started bootstrapped, got to our first 100K in ARR, and then raised a little money, raised 7 figures in venture. And then kind of use that to grow into 7 figures ARR. Yeah. So that's kind of where we are now.
Excellent. Okay. So obviously it's not your first SaaS company, but just curious, is there anything you would change about your approach if you had to do it all over again?
I don't think so. Like I think dreams and goals, you pay for dreams and goals with 2 types of currency. And it's not monetary. The 2 types of currency are sacrifice and regret. And I kind of figured this out really, really, really early, where I knew I didn't want to regret doing anything. Like I'm not a bootstrapped founder that hates venture capital. And right. I don't consider myself a venture-backed entrepreneur that like overemphasizes like bootstrapped capital.
I see.
So like for me, I love being I love having the, what I call like optionality to do one or the other. If you run a great fundamental company, which I've strived and struggled for, you don't end up having any regrets, and you just end up paying for it with sacrifice, because anyone getting to where they want to go will end up sacrificing to get to where they need to go.
For sure.
So yeah, like the exact same thing every single time.
Nice. Love it. All right. So how'd you get your first 10 customers through the doors?
Begging. Like begging. Like, I don't know what that philosophy is. But I have this one thing that I will not teach, but like help some of our customers with, because a lot of them are small business owners and entrepreneurs. And one thing is, like, you start with obviously the people around you or the people closest to you, or even random email campaigns, whatever it takes. But your goal is to not think about 10, is to think about one, right? Just one person who will give you $100, $10, $20, anything. One individual, one human being, or hopefully a human being, that will give you $10 for that thing on a recurring basis. Hopefully a recurring basis, if it's SaaS. So if you can get that one, you can build a program or build an archetype to help you get one more. And then you have two. And if you have two people that are paying you, that like your service, and you're working with just those two people, I don't give a shit if you work with just those two people for 6 months. If you're building a product that these two non-associated people have and like, and it's out there and they're paying you for it, you will be able to use those two to get you the next 8. And then you'll be at 10. So you use that one, right? Maybe they help you get the second one, but you really want those 10 customers that are disassociated. So, but it's easy to do when you find one person that needs the thing you're trying to solve for.
Yeah.
Because if there's one person out there, there's going to be one more.
That's right.
So like, normally I think there's no pride in finding your first customer. It's about crying through it. Trying and crying. Okay? That's all you should be doing, is knocking on doors, figuring out who needs this first thing. When I started TaskMagic, I didn't know what I had, and venture capitalists and investors that we were talking with didn't like the fact that I was just knocking on doors. I went to small businesses and I said, hey, listen, talk to me about your problems, whatever it is, right? Like, there's got to be something here in your company that like you don't want to do. I will see if I can automate it manually. I will see if I can do it. We've built this software. I think we can help you with these types of things. Just tell me what keeps you up at night. That's it. I think I can help. No cost to you. And they started telling me about their problems. And then I started building, like, there was this one bagel shop, and then they used this one program. So I was like, cool. And you can't automate this, And they go, nope, you can't automate this thing. So I was like, all right, let me see if I can do it. So then I ended up building a template around that workflow and then selling it to other people that looked just like them.
Okay.
So it's just about finding something that works for one person right now. Don't think 10, don't think 100, don't think 1,000. One.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. All right.
Well said.
So, let's pivot onto TaskMagic. Let's talk about how it works. And I'm also curious how it's different to just hiring a VA.
Yeah. So it's cheaper than hiring a VA.
Okay.
That's number one. So like, and you think VAs they're still running at least $5 to $10 an hour, right? Like, I mean, it started with like VAing or like getting into like direct sales who hire VAs. And I was like, okay, so one is you have to train the VAs, right?
Yeah.
Two is you have to manage them. So like, we both build the automations, set them up, and monitor and manage them for you.
Okay.
So like, and we charge $200 a month. So if you wanted a full-time VA to just do things over and over and over, it's gonna be way more money than that. So like, and we don't limit it for that. So for the $200 right now, it's like unlimited like workflows.
Okay.
So you can go in and build and go, I want to do this, or like we can help consult and do these types of things. And we make it so incredibly easy to do where if you have to, dude, we've all been there. Like VAs, and I'm going to make a blanket statement here. If I said someone was making $7 an hour, you don't go, they can just engineer a process by themselves. You don't think that. You think, I'm going to have to tell this person I can't leave it up to chance that they have to think. Because there's no way in hell, HE double hockey sticks, that you're hiring anyone on God's green earth for $5 an hour and they're going to think like you want them to think. That just doesn't happen, right?
No.
So our program thinks for you. So essentially what you do is you go in, and are you familiar with Loom?
Yes.
Okay. So it's essentially as easy as recording a Loom. So you press a button, it opens up a browser window, and you can go to web apps and do the manual repetitive tasks one time. So you record yourself doing it once in the web, hit stop, and then you can schedule that thing to run. There's no APIs that need to be connected. There's none of this stuff that needs to be connected. If you want variables to come in, you can connect to Google Sheets, bring variables in, and then spit data out if you want.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, it will also make recommendations for you based on letting it run. So if you let it run for 2 days, we can now recommend your daily processes and the things that we can give you. If you let it run for 2 weeks, we can give you the weekly processes. So that, for a little amount of money, is teaching this thing to think for you. So cool, we recommend you've gone to Airtable or Google Sheets 18 times and did this thing. Here, why don't you try these 3 things? So that's a little about what we do.
All right, so the end user is not in contact with the VA at all. The end user just is in contact with your platform, and that's it. Is that how it works?
Correct. Yeah. We don't it's a machine learning software. So the video actually spits out the steps. After you're done recording your video, it spits out your steps and you can just schedule it to run. So there's no middlemen. There's nothing in between. It's just record the video, schedule it to run, and never do that thing ever again.
Nice and easy. I like it.
Nice and easy, right? That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Excellent. All right. So you've already talked a little bit about those 6-figure businesses, but I was just going to ask, how did you go about building 3 6-figure businesses, and what does it take to go from 6 to 7 figures?
A behavior change in your customer. So it is that's a great question, because for me, it's not something I've really given a lot of thought to be honest. Because I've done 3 6-figure companies, anywhere from 2 to 600-700 grand.
Yeah.
It takes a next level. It takes a question mark and what that thing is, and we'll dive into it, to get to the $1 million mark and beyond. And I think it has something to do with true product market fit, right? Finding, you can kind of game really close to $1 million, right? I'm going to sell this thing, and I've only got to sell 10 people at 100 grand, or 50, what is it? On 10 people, 50 or 20 people at 50 grand, right? I guess.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound that much over the course of a year. So you can kind of game that system, but if you're making something in SaaS and you're trying to think about recurring, you can still get 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 grand a year, but something is going to break. It's either going to break or survive or be your kingdom come. When you start getting into 800, 900 grand territory, it's going to be apparent that you're going to think one of 2 things. We don't like our current customers. You're going to think that. Or you're going to think these customers are low touch. All we have to do is do exactly what we're doing to get this last cohort of customers, deploy cash to it, and go beyond 1 million in stratospheric. Because like once you've hit 1 million and you've digested all the data that you bring in, and you're thinking, cool, our last cohort, say it's the last, I don't know, 100 customers or something that you brought in. These people barely ask us any questions. They can self-help through our docs. It comes a little later in the course of a company, right? Like not your first couple of months, your first couple of customers, but it's 9, 10 months, 11, 12 months, 2 years, right? Where you found this kind of nirvana. And I think it's when the behavior of the customer, when they don't need to ask you or you need to white glove them anymore, and you've built up a solid like knowledge base, self-help articles, or the product is polished enough where it is just so intuitive. I'm a UX designer by trade, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
But for me, it's more along like, what is the customer's behavior while they're using something? So this is so easy. I barely have to touch this now. It's 3 clicks and I'm done. I just have to click, record, done. So like the behavior has to change for the customer versus I want extra service. And those kind of customers are kind of pissing you off. Because obviously you only have so many hours in a day and you might as well be consulting now. The product's not standing for itself. So that mental shift in the customer and then the frictionless nature of the product, really you have to get to those kind of 2 things to get beyond that into that 7 figures, where my first 3 kind of really didn't. But yeah, it's funny to see that now.
So the user experience is crucial then by the sound of it.
Yeah, I think the user experience would be, because the user experience sets up that consumer behavior. And you can teach a new behavior. And if you're doing something innovative enough, you are creating a new behavior for the customer. And that's kind of, that incurs a lot of friction at the beginning. And now it's like, oh, this is flawless because those people tell other people. Something clicks in the head of the consumer. Like, oh my God, this is easier. I was thinking how this old platform was doing it.
And then they tell their friends.
That's so easy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Then it's just referrals. And that's kind of how we've grown now. So like, and it's only something that I've seen in the last 12 months, I would guess.
Excellent. Okay. All right, just curious, what are your thoughts on the balance between inbound and outbound marketing?
Yeah. So I love outbound. So like, I guess you could call it marketing. I'm thinking one thing was like, what's the price threshold? Like if it's less than $1,000 a month, it should be marketing driven. And then if it's over 1,000, it should be sales driven, over $1,000 a month. Right.
Okay.
I've always tried to balance the 2 of, we have this mid-tier, like $200, $500 a month, but we do all outbound. So like, I haven't really done something that's purely marketing driven yet, or like marketing experimental. It's always like that demand gen where it's like the hybrid between the 2, where like which would be considered, I guess, more inbound, right? So like you're creating this demand around your product where we have our salespeople like go outbound with our sales and then have them support them coming in so they know how to better sell. Right. So it's like, it's while putting out some content and then using that content to drive more inbound interest. So it's like, it's very much around this demand gen strategy, which is just like the balance between the 2. That's kind of, I've never really put it in a box where it's cool. You only have a product that's $200 a month. Why are you getting on demos? And you're like, because I'm trying to figure out what makes this customer click exactly and see if we can get them from 200 to 500 and create a personal relationship. Yeah, I understand that's not how you 100% get to 100 million ARR. But at the beginning, I think you have to nurture and balance the 2.
Yeah, agree completely. All right, so just to switch gears, how do you approach reducing churn and turning your customers into raving fans?
You make your salespeople become customer support because if they churn, they lose commission. That's how you do it.
Okay.
So the funny part is they don't want to do it, right? But you sit there and you tell them, listen, here's the number one metric. It's net growth, right? And everyone wins if we net grow. Net growth meaning your growth rate. We could grow 20% month over month.
Yeah.
But if we're losing 15% a month, you're only growing 5% a month. So churn is so much more important than bringing on new customers, because you don't want to bring on new customers to a leaky bucket.
No.
Right? You need to figure out why. That's why it's so important when we were calling back what we were doing earlier, which is work with two people that love your product. Find two people. So many founders and early startup tech product people, SaaS founders, will not be satisfied with 2 paying customers. And they'll be like, cool, we need 10. Why? Well, they want to see growth. Your growth. Like 2 customers that absolutely love your product first. Yeah. If you can't get 2 people that absolutely love your product and pay you money, don't worry about getting 4 or 10 or 40 or 400.
Fix the product.
Like, because you're going to, fix the product, damn it. So for me, it is something where you're like, work with your customers, tie your, I know it sounds, and they're probably going to watch this. And it's like, but this is one of the funniest things I've figured out is if you have those salespeople supporting the customers or kind of acting like account managers, right?
Yeah.
They're going to know where the faults are. So they're going to bring you the real truths of why someone is going to leave. Man, but because they get driven off their commission. It's not necessarily what their base is or even what their real on-target earnings is. It's like they really want to see, like, if that customer churns, I lose commission. Because I just pay 10%, 10, 15% based on where it's tiered. Yeah. Where it's like forever. It's not just like a one time. So if they bring in like a certain, like $500 a month, you make $50 a month off that customer forever, not the first year, not 2 years. So like it builds that relationship where you're checking in, you're servicing them, you're pushing the customer support person to check in with them and making sure everything's hunky dory.
Yeah.
That is a way we've really, 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 we haven't churned a lot. That's a secret that I've found out now.
Nice.
Have your sales folks do support.
I've never heard that one before. Yeah. All right.
I've never said it. I don't think. Yeah. I don't think it's ever come out of my mouth. Okay. So.
All right. So, what's the biggest challenge you believe new founders are experiencing right now with growing SaaS companies?
Yeah, the newest challenge. I would say it's almost like a repurposing of a challenge, but I think most SaaS founders think this is going to sound contradictory, but like, don't worry about your vision. I know how that sounds. Like if you're a new SaaS founder and you're selling someone on a story, if you know the adage, Scott, that is CEOs shouldn't be working in the business; they should be working on the business.
Michael Gerber. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Like, how are you going to know where your salespeople like to be tickled? Right? Like, how are you going to know where your customers like to be serviced? How are you going to know all of these nuances in and out of your business if you're not working in your business?
Yeah.
Like, it's so much where it's like, no, I'm raising money. I'm putting this pitch deck together. Why are you worried about that stuff? Like, great. Then you go fundraise for 40 hours, but you come back here and work in the business for another 50. Good luck. That sucks for you, solo founder. Like, you will not. Would you listen to anyone who hadn't done something that you wouldn't look or seek anyone's advice if they hadn't done that thing? Yeah, so what I do is I work customer support. so that I know exactly the customer support person to hire for that role. I do sales at the beginning because I know exactly now who to hire. I know where the pain is. I know where the pain is coming from.
Yeah.
And so many founders now want to sit behind a computer, type out a mission statement, send it to venture capitalists and go, look at me, look at this demo. I'm a founder now. Where it's like, what they're not satisfied with the 2 customers, the 10 customers, and just servicing them.
Yeah.
Like, you obviously know about like referral market. This is the best. If you need to sink money into ads constantly to acquire customers, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing it wrong. Your product is not good enough if you constantly have to pay to get in front of people's face.
Yeah, great.
So like people will go, oh my God, dude, you got to use TaskMagic. Oh my God, oh, this is insane. You've got to get it, this Tesla. Take a ride. And then you ride in a Tesla because your friend bought one and you go, Tesla's my new dream car.
Yeah.
And you're like, the seat is so comfortable. And it's like word of mouth is better than Elon getting at a stage and telling you need to buy a Tesla.
Yes.
Right? Your friend doing something. And it's work. Don't worry about the 30,000 foot view. People get distracted that Brian Chesky at Airbnb became what he became. And then you listen to the dude talk, and he's pretty practically perfect as a founder. And you're thinking, listen to him talk, listen to the orator that he is, the success that listen how he talks about the narrative. And it's like, that dude was sleeping on a couch using personal credit cards as baseball trading cards, he tells the famous story about how they were selling boxes of cereal during the 2008 election.
Okay.
And it's like, no one wants to listen to that story where you're like, he was gluing cereal boxes together. It wasn't even for the business. It was just like Airbnb. Oh, here's breakfast. And you're like, everyone wants to skip past that stage.
Yes.
The gluing your cereal boxes together. And they just want to go, I'm on stage with Sequoia and like, oh, I'm at Y Combinator now lecturing. They want to go to that. And it's like, no, sit there and glue some cereal boxes together first, then hire. That's the best thing that I see.
Okay, interesting. All right, so my favorite question, what's your favorite business book?
My favorite business book. Oh, that's a good one. So there is only one book that I've read cover to cover. One book.
Okay.
And that was The Third Wave by Steve Case. But there's another book I read the whole book, listened to the whole book. So I'm going to do the one that I listened to.
Yeah.
And the one that I listened to was James Altucher, Choose Yourself.
Okay.
That book to me was you can call it a business book. That is a business book. He actually like wrote that to be a business book. That book changed my life. Right? Like that is the book where he started going into, like right at the beginning, he hits you with it. Like, are you familiar with James Altucher?
No, I'm not actually. No.
You got to look at this book. It's Choose Yourself, James Altucher.
Okay.
And he is one of the most prolific like business vloggers to me. He's just entertaining as well. But like he goes into his stories about successes and failure and how you shouldn't be ashamed to choose yourself. You need to choose yourself. I believe there's like undertones of like being a little selfish in there to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
It's a short read or listen. It was only like a 4.5 hour audiobook.
Yeah.
But I have now listened to it 3 times. That to me is anyone that struggles with like an identity or feels alone or like wants to know that someone else has got it a little more harsh out there. Choose Yourself is one of the greatest books out there.
Nice. Okay, I'll check it out. All right, so just to wrap up, where can people go to find out more about TaskMagic?
TaskMagic.com. Isn't that cool? We got that domain, Scott.
It is actually, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like I couldn't believe we got that. And it
And
wasn't
you didn't even
wasn't
have
that
to spell it
expensive
with
at
a K or anything. Like, it's just normal spelling.
Yeah. Yeah, TaskMagic. Or Magic Stick. You know what I mean? It wasn't like TaskMagic.co. We got TaskMagic.com. So like there's like such a legitimacy and like prestige there.
Yeah.
And like at first I was actually going to call it TaskMat. What the hell is that? Right?
Magic's
So
better.
like, and I was just like 100%. It's such a good thing. It's such a good, cool name. But TaskMagic.com, yeah, I appreciate it. Or find me on YouTube at youtube.com/the_Jeremy_Redmond. I can be found at either of those. Or email me at jeremy@taskmagic.com. I'll show you what it's like. Show you the magic. I'm your task magician, Scott.
Love it. All right. Thanks for coming on the show, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Mr. Dudley, I appreciate you so much. I really do.